Now, on to our speaker, Ike Skelton. And also, you guys take a look at these. These are brand new on your tables, don't forget. Okay, so Ike didn't send me a short intro bio, so I'm just going to give you a brief intro. When I started waking up to what was going on, still raising my kids and trying to survive life, and decided that something wasn't right, I meet someone by the name of Ike Skelton. And so anyway, through the course of the years of our communication, this was back in the day when we had to dial the 800 number. We'd get on Sunday evening calls across the state, and this is how we communicated about our plan of action and what we were going to do. Anyway, Ike says, we have Gina McCarthy coming from the EPA or wherever she's coming from, over in Columbia, Missouri. And let's get a car full of people and let's go over there. Let's all the state just flood their private little meeting. So a few of us here, Janet Criddle's here, and myself, and a few other friends, Linda Wright. So we headed over, and I had already met Ike Skelton talking about Agenda 21 at the time. And we go in there, and there's all these black limousines or black SUVs, I guess. And we're like, what on earth? And we bombarded their meeting from people all across the state, and we sat in there, and I'll let Ike fill in because he wanted all of us to talk. We're like, no, you talk. So he did. Anyway, I introduced you the presiding commissioner from Camden County, Missouri, Ike Skelton, and a good friend. I'm just gonna, you don't need this, right?
Thank you. Thank you for having me this evening. And just before I get into myself and what's going on, just on this Amendment 3, I would encourage you, because I read the language, and if you read the language, some of the things that we are concerned about is not really directly explained in that. It's not spelled out that way. You kind of have to understand that lawyers and activists will use that language against us and against babies. So you really need to pull out some of the language of the statute or of the petition, and then put it down there and really illustrate what would be wrong with that. That's just a little something I think about. My name is Ike Skelton. My full name is Todd Isaac Skelton. I don't know if I have to give this speech or this part of it down here, because when I'm up in any other part of the state, who knows of the old Congressman Ike Skelton? See, just a couple of people. Well, up there, a whole lot of them do, because he was in the 4th Congressional District. So I have to explain that no, I'm not related to that former Democrat. Although for a Democrat, he was okay. Well, anyhow, so until he wasn't. My dad called me Ike all of his life. My mom called me Todd all of her life. And unless I was in trouble, then Mom's right, I was Todd Isaac. And so I heard that quite a bit. But my dad was very influential in my adult life, and I've kind of just taken, I prefer Ike, and that's where we are. I've been involved in grassroots activism, as Jan said, for quite some time, probably 2010 maybe, we really all started waking up. The Tea Party movement really gave me a vehicle to work within, because I had been listening to Rush Limbaugh in the late 90s, and who knew Derry Brownfield? Derry Brownfield Network, oh man. I mean, he was the precursor to Rush Limbaugh. If anybody listened to him, I mean, Derry Brownfield was incredible. He gave me some of my real core principle beliefs and thought processes. But I've been doing that for a long time. I was the leader of the Tea Party movement in Lebanon, Missouri, Laclede County. I was a locksmith for a while. I've been in the United States Army. I've worked for the state of Missouri. I've done a few things. I won't talk about myself a lot, but I do say those things because I have a pretty rounded career background. I haven't just done one thing and then jumped into government, because I think that when you're doing one thing all over your life for your livelihood, that's where you focus, right? You got to pay your bills, get your kids to college, and all these other things. You don't really think too much about the world around you other than how it directly affects whatever it is you're doing. So with a better background, I think that's what I brought to county commissioner, and I think it's not a bad deal. Let's see, we'll go into this little meeting one time just because it was fun. So what happens an awful lot in these meetings, you see these big wigs from Washington, D.C. and Jefferson City, they'll get together with stakeholders. Stakeholders is just a bad term because what used to happen is the people would meet with their representatives, and you tell your representative what you need to have them do, and they would go make those votes. Well, now they bring in the stakeholders. So now you have all these people that have some sort of a vested interest in whatever is going on. And unfortunately, an awful lot of what we think about in our own livelihoods and government is, well, what is that actually going to do to me? What is that going to do to my business? That's all incredibly valid, as long as it's what are they going to do to me. It's when you start asking the questions, what are they going to do for me, that we start getting into the public-private partnerships that are absolutely bad, and other things of that nature. So anyhow, they have these meetings, they get together, and guess what? Farm Bureau is there, the Cattlemen's Association, all of the heads of these different organizations. Why do they do that? Because if they can get those individuals isolated, those are the only ones that they got to convince. And then they're going to come back to your organizations and convince you, because you, if Jan came back here and told you something that was big government, you'd be leery a little bit at first, but you trust her. So maybe you'd buy into it. Same thing with all these other organizations, cattlemen, the soybean farmers, whatever. If they trust that individual as the head of their organization, and that person comes back and says, well, this is what we need to do, you're probably going to trust them. When in reality, it has been those individuals sitting down with some government entity of one nature or another and have been doing something to figure out how to get that government plan working in your community. So they're sitting at this big table and we come in. I absolutely positively assure you they did not expect, what was it, probably 50 to 100 grassroots individuals there. It was a clandestine meeting, literally out in the middle of a University of Missouri cornfield, little agricultural testing facility of some nature. And we crashed them, and yes, I did get up and tell Gina McCarthy that we don't want her in the state of Missouri at all, and they can go away. And it was all about the waters of the U.S. That's what it all was. That's another totally different story, because waters of the U.S. is out there. It's just called WARDA now, and it's something different. So there are so many doggone things we got to fight. I don't even know where to start sometimes. But that was fun days, you know. And then I got out of activism for a little bit. I bought a new my brother's locksmith business, so I was incredibly involved in it. It was very fast paced. So I backed off for a little bit, and once I got that going and got some help, I got back into activism, because being a public servant, I mean, I've done that all my life. Really, from the Army, I was a public servant there. When I worked for the state of Missouri, I was a public servant. Probably the only thing I've done in my life that wasn't public service is I operated heavy equipment out of Local 513 out of St. Louis for about 6 years. So other than that, it's all been in some public service of one way or another. And I enjoy that. I enjoy serving. So I ran for presiding commissioner. And some of my friends came to me and said, don't worry about it, Ike. It's a part-time job. Won't be that big a deal. You just have to do it a little bit. Come on, we'll help you out. Well, they lied to me, but we did win. It is a full-time job, I assure you that. And I'm going to tell you something a little bit about our crew real quick. So the first thing that we did was there was this big soccer complex that they wanted to bring in, and they were going to try to get a tax passed so the community, not a TIF, but a tax, just a tax, to get passed so that the community would pay for the development of these soccer fields. Well, we gathered together. I didn't even know a lot of these people at that time, but they were very, very strong in the community. Stacy Shore and others got together, and I helped out, and we defeated that. And it was a really cool thing, and I'll tell you, there was a good chunk of our community, Lake of the Ozarks, if you're familiar with it at all, in the Camden County area. There's some real money up in Camden County, I'll have to tell you. And there was some big money coming after this and wanting to get this done, because it was going to ingratiate them in one way or another, right? And just these little, and we are known as a little band, and this little group got together and we defeated all of them. And I don't know quite sure what they thought to do about that. Well, the next thing that happened is my first district commissioner, James Gohagan, took on the current commissioner that's been there for about 16 years and defeated her. Spent less than $2,000. Knocked on an awful lot of doors, had a very good message, he was a good candidate, and beat her pretty bad. Next election cycle comes around, presiding commissioner and prosecuting attorney are up, and presiding commissioner was a real turd. We got rid of him, and that's my job now. And the prosecuting attorney was a very bad actor as well. And we got rid of that individual. As a matter of fact, that individual and the sheriff's department colluded to go after one of our other very, very vocal political activist, Nathan Rennie. And they banned him from, it was just a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, we're in a lawsuit right now because of it. His rights were definitely violated, and now the county is going to have to pony up some things, I think. So we defeated the presiding commissioner, we defeated the the prosecuting attorney, and then the sheriff comes up. Well, we already had a lot of dirt on the sheriff, and the sheriff wasn't in that great of health, so he wasn't going to run anyway, right? Well, his surrogate, been there for 30 years, ran, and another one of his buddies, and we defeated all of them and got the guy we wanted into office as sheriff as well. And as a matter of fact, the second district commissioner that was in office, the incumbent, we had so much on him already that he didn't even want to try to run, and we've also taken the second district as well. So in Camden County, we've got just a couple of positions that we may or may not want to look at. I'm being recorded, so I'll guard some of my strategies. But there is a couple of people that we may or may not want to boot out of office. But if that is our intention, I will tell you about Camden County. If it is our intention to get someone out of one of those offices, they are probably going to lose. And I'll tell you one of the biggest reasons why. We have not only a network of people within our county that are incredibly patriot-oriented and freedom and liberty-oriented and small government, we have a social media game that you can't beat. And I would encourage you, for your activism in the future, we can talk about it some more, but work on your social media game. It's incredible what you can accomplish and how many people you can reach and the targeting that you can do with just a little bit of a budget when it comes to social media. So I would highly encourage you to do that. But that's one of the big reasons why we have been able to win what we can win, because we can push our message out there, and you can never underestimate the need for knocking on doors and just talking to people. That's critical. Tough to do in a Senate race, but if you get volunteers, it's fun. So I am the presiding commissioner, and I think I just want to let you know a little bit about what presiding commissioners do if you didn't know, and what the commission does in general. We are a first-class county. Missouri has first, second, third, and fourth-class counties. They also have first-class counties with charter forms of government, and we also have a lot of counties with township forms of government, especially for their road and bridge departments. The presiding commissioner, what the commission generally does is we take care of all of the buildings within the county government. We take care of the budget, that is, we approve the budget. We can set and approve. Now, in first-class county, you have an auditor that is actually the budget officer. Thought maybe I'd turn it off for a second. And then in third-class counties, the clerk, the county clerk is those are the two biggest types of counties in Missouri. Is third, and there's 14 first-class, I think, but most of the counties are third-class counties. And that is on their clerk to then take care of all of the budgeting. But we take care of the budgeting. We don't worry about the minutia of it. And one of the bad things I learned, and if you start participating in budget cycles of your county, once an elected official is given the funds in the budget, the commissioners really can't tell them how to spend it. So once it's in there, they can go spend it as they deem necessary to run their office. So if you participate in your budget cycle at all through your commissioners, make sure that you understand what that money is being spent for, not just the fact of how much they got. If it's an equipment line for $10,000, what kind of equipment do you intend on buying for $10,000? Find those things out. And I'll tell you why. We had a building that was some years ago purchased through our sheriff's department. Most sheriff's departments have kind of a discretionary fund. They can spend it on almost anything they want to. Well, they bought a building from MoDOT along with just general county revenue. That sheriff, the one that we didn't run and defeated, he thought that building was still his and part of his department. Well, what we found out, and everybody needs to know, is that once something is purchased for the county, it is the responsibility of the commissioners, period. It is county property now, and the commissioners can appropriate it and do what they need to do with it. Well, this individual had this old MoDOT building and wanted to turn it into a garage where he could work on his own vehicles because he didn't like the way our mechanics were working on things. So instead of trying to solve that problem, he went out and bought a lift, a two-post lift to lift up cars on. Well, we found out about all this. We stopped all of that. I took the building back, put road and bridge in it where it needs to be, and E911. The sheriff doesn't have much of anything to do with that building, but there's a lift that is sitting on gravel out at our firing range at the sheriff's department, because now we got it, what are you gonna do with it? We'll probably auction it off someday, unfortunately. But there's just to tell you that once that money is appropriated, we really can't tell them what to do with it. And we definitely deal with all the roads. In our first class county, we have the health department. You were talking about health department a bit ago. Who was talking about health department? Are they all elected officials?
Yes.
Really?
On the board, the health board.
We don't have a health board. I don't know what the difference is there, but we don't have a health board. We hire and fire everybody that's in that health department. We set the entire policy for that health department. So if there's any way that you can get that done, that'd probably be a good thing to do in this county, but I don't know if you can accomplish that. I don't know how it's set up that way. But it was something that I would look at least. So we made sure, actually when I get into office, the individual was there was trying to push along the federal mandates for kids to have masks on the school buses. Well, thankfully, we had a very strong school board at that time, and they said, well, we appreciate the information, but we're not gonna do that. And they didn't have the kids' mask up on the buses. And I fired the health department director when I got elected. So we have the health department. We have planning and zoning in our county. Now, here's something fun about Missouri law. Missouri law, you're not supposed to make any kind of a special law just for your county or your district or your whatever. Well, Camden County does. Because it says that any lake in the state of Missouri with a certain amount of shoreline and all these other different caveats can have what is called a planning and zoning district. Anywhere else in the state of Missouri, if you have planning and zoning, your entire county has to be developed in planning and zoning. Which a lot of the farmers and people out in rural areas don't like, and I agree with them, because that's their property, and enough people living around me to tell me what to do, so leave me alone. And I fully understand that and I believe it. At least the Lake of the Ozarks, we have a 3.5 mile buffer from the shoreline out that is a planning and zoning district. So we are in charge of that district. We also have the road and bridge, we have wastewater, human resources, payroll, and maintenance of all the buildings. So those are the things that are under the commission purview in Camden County, and I would better under the purview of the commission here in Cape Girardeau County as well, Cape County as well. Some of the specific things, so now, first district, second district, presiding commissioner generally runs all of the meetings. The presiding commissioner is also the kind of the executive branch, as it were, and the other two individuals are kind of the legislative branch, maybe, if you want to put it that way. We all come up with the ordinances. They vote on whether to do it. The presiding commissioner doesn't even vote unless they want to. If there happens to be a tie and the presiding commissioner wants to vote, they can. Something you need to know about presiding commissioner, their vote is 1+. So if you have a commissioner that votes yes and another commissioner that votes no, and the presiding commissioner votes no, it's going no. If you have just two commissioners at that particular time, which is a quorum, and one commissioner votes yes, but the presiding commissioner votes no, it's a no. The presiding commissioner vote overrules the one of the other two.
Wow.
So presiding commissioner has just that little bit of extra cover when it comes to the votes. We definitely lead all of the meetings, and we certainly lead the direction of the county as well. I sign all contracts, and I am a member of a lot of different boards, whether I want to be or not. Some statute require or just places presiding commissioners on these various boards from the different counties. You don't have to attend, but I figure if that's my job and I'm getting paid for it, I probably need to attend. Find out if your guys do. Clint, I've spoken with Clint. He's a pretty good guy. We don't see eye to eye on everything. So those are some of the things in the boards. I'm on the Missouri Association of Counties. I'm also with the National Association of Counties. And at this last National Association of County meeting, I was elected president of the National Republican National Conference of Republican County Officials. That's what it is.
Wow.
So yes, that's a nationwide organization that I'm going to try to do something with. And I'll tell you a quick little story. Don't get too excited. I was the only volunteer. That being said, I still got up and I gave my speech, and I told them, I said, look, I call a spade, and I call a communist a communist. If I see a liberal communist that needs to be called a liberal communist, that's what I'm going to call them. I don't shut my mouth up. I will stand up and say what needs to be said. I will unabashedly put my views as a conservative libertarian, if you believe that combination. I put those things together as well as my Christian base, and I'll say whatever it is I need to say that I believe is appropriate and right, and I really don't care what people think about that. And they elected me anyway. So, thanks. And I'll tell you another little story. So we were down in Tampa at NACO, National Association of Counties. And I have to tell you folks, have you ever gone into a place where you just don't feel like you should be there? You know, there might be a couple of hundred people there, and you feel like maybe you're just not quite with all of them. Yeah, that would be this room in the National Association of Counties. Because I'll tell you folks, they are heavily, heavily populated by liberals. Most of these organizations are, because they know, as it was said earlier, they are organized. They're organized very, very tightly. They have the same Democrat conference of county officials as the Republicans do. They get over $50,000 a year, every year, to run their conference. You know what the Republicans get? Membership dues. And I'll tell you, for real, when it comes down here and everybody knows what they can do in their heart and what they can't, but for whatever reason, Republicans, conservatives, Tea Party members don't open their wallet. I know a lot of people don't have a wallet to open very much. But you know what? If you go to McDonald's twice a month, maybe make it once, and send that $10, just, well, $15 now, to some candidate or organization or something. Just try to help out. Because unfortunately, money is the lifeblood of politics. You cannot get your word out if you don't have funding. Even with the social media stuff that we do, you still have to have some funding, especially to be able to target those ads and deal with those things. And hey, you know what? We're all volunteers for a little while, but there's a point in time where gas starts costing money, things of this nature that we need to start getting some reimbursement. Just a little quickie, I'm going to try to come up with something, a PAC or something in this organization. I've lobbied up in Jefferson City before, and I apologize for skipping over this. Just to let you know that it is capable, we have gotten a personhood bill passed with Mike Moon through the Missouri House years ago. Now, it never made it to the Senate, and this is the craziest thing in the world. Who's familiar with Missouri Right to Life? Anybody in here a member? Okay, that's all right. They're our right organization. They did not support our personhood amendment. You believe that? You know why? Guess why? Somebody guess why?
Because they don't want to solve a problem, they want to manage it.
They want to do it their way. And they believe that if we would have made it and got it on the ballot and it passed, that for some reason everything that they had done before that would have been wasted. Anyhow, you can talk to them about that. We might have to do it again, because if Amendment 3 passes, the only other option we'll have is personhood for babies, and hopefully, I don't even know if that'll kill Amendment 3, but something else I want to tell you. Missouri will support and vote for Donald Trump. At the same time, Amendment 3 will probably pass. You all need to be prepared for that. It doesn't mean you don't go out and try to make sure it doesn't. But just understand that's the electorate. I don't get it. It's schizophrenic to me. But unfortunately, that's kind of the world we're in, for whatever reason. So we also did an anti-Agenda 21 bill. I used to go around the state of Missouri teaching. It's probably where we met. It was for me going around the state of Missouri and teaching Agenda 21. Y'all had FACL training? Anybody had FACL training? FACL? Probably ought to do another one down here. It's really, I don't really espouse with FACL, but the information they should give you is incredible. And some of the tactics and tools we still use to this day. So that's good stuff. I say those things to just let you know that we can accomplish things if we just get together to do it. Tell you a little bit about what kind of got me going as a presiding commissioner. One of the first things I did as presiding commissioner, one of my folks from planning and zoning sent me an email and said, hey, the ATF is asking about zoning and business licenses of 3 FFL carriers in Camden County. What do you want us to do? I said, nothing. Send me those emails. So they sent me the emails. And I sent a letter back to the ATF, and this is when SAPA was still law in Missouri, and now we know that that's been killed, right? Second Amendment Preservation Act, unless it goes to the Supreme Court, is dead in Missouri. Although Camden County was the first county in the state of Missouri that signed a SAPA ordinance, and it is still on the books. And we'll enforce it in Camden County, and the ATF can come down there, and we'll tell them to get the hell out. This is what we did already. The ATF wanted to know the information about our FFL holders. They wanted to know if they were zoned properly, if their businesses were in a proper business zone, and they wanted to know if their business licenses were up to date. I sent a letter back that says, no, their doggone business. If they want to come down here and find out, they can come down to Camden County, but I am not going to help them do what they think is their job. We did a press release, went nationwide. It was a beautiful thing. Even got to go on Glen back. That was fun. But so all you've got to do is you've got to stand up to these folks, because the federal government does not have the manpower or the authority that they think they do. Another real quick story. Who's heard of the Dollar Heights and the Bunny story? Several years ago, the Dollar Height family in Springfield wanted to teach their children how to not just raise meat bunnies, rabbits, but also make some money. The kids wanted some things. They're like, well, instead of giving them money, let's teach them how to make some money. So they started raising meat rabbits and selling them for food. They sold them across state line. And the USDA got involved. The USDA got involved and said, no, you can't do that anymore. They got to be stamped and processed and all this good junk. And the Dollar Heights are like, well, we're a small operation. You don't have the authority to do that anyway, so we're going to continue on. And the USDA said, well, we're going to fine you, we're going to fine you, we're going to fine you. Got up to about $1 million in fines. A lot of different elected officials got involved. Not a whole lot happened. Got some lawyers involved. Still not a whole lot happened. But enough pressure finally got on the USDA, and they said, okay, I'll tell you what. We will back out of this if you sign this piece of paper. And we'll just say it's all said and done. Piece of paper in it said that although we're going to let you go, the USDA has the authority to regulate you. The Dollar Heights did not sign that letter, even knowing that there were fines of over $1 million out there hanging over their heads.
Good for them.
Exactly. Why? Because eventually the USDA backed down, dropped it all, and said, just as long as you don't sell them across state lines, you're fine. And that was the end of it. And again, I say that because we have to stand up to these people. We cannot just assume that they have the authority to do what they do. The 10th Amendment. Read the 10th Amendment, know the 10th Amendment, and start using the 10th Amendment. So, that's what we did with the ATF. So again, I told you earlier, the presiding commissioner is kind of the leader of the county, and we kind of get things going and take a particular direction. Well, who's familiar with civil asset forfeiture and equitable sharing? Okay, equitable sharing absolutely is not good. In the state of Missouri, let's say your sheriff goes and arrests somebody that's a drug dealer, and they happen to have a bunch of cash, maybe a couple extra cars, a big home, a lot of other things, that they cannot attribute that to anything else other than the illegal, ill-gotten gains from selling of drugs, right? So that law enforcement can then hold onto that property. They get a conviction of that individual. They can then take that property, seize it, sell it, and all of the proceeds go to Missouri early education programs. Not a bad idea, right? It's not horrible. Guess what the feds do? The federal government will first come take your property if And this happened down in Salem, in Dent County, Salem, Missouri. We're gonna have him on my radio show in 2 weeks, and I'll give you that information so you can listen in. The name of the place was called Camp Zoe, Z-O-E. It was a place for children at one time, and this gentleman bought it, and he opened up something and started running a thing called swag stock. Who's ever heard of swag stock? Okay, this is the libertarian side of me. Swag stock was a place where people like to go listen to the Grateful Dead, probably do things that most of us in this room wouldn't do, or ever did do, as far as hallucinogenics and other things of this nature. So they want to go do what they want to go do. Now, as a libertarian in me, I don't care what they go do on somebody else's property. As long as you don't come out in the world where I'm at and mess with me, go knock your socks off. That's freedom, isn't it? Isn't that liberty and freedom? Who can tell me a time in the Bible where Jesus went to the Romans and said, stop them from doing what I don't want them to do? He never did that, did he? We try to do that an awful lot today. But I digress. So, somebody, I guess, came out of that property and they happened to have some drugs in their car and the police got them and yada yada. And so they wanted to then law enforcement wanted to do a raid on that big property. And the feds came in, they did the raid. The gentleman that owned the property, he's not a drug dealer, he's a musician. So he had no drugs around, had no big stockpiles of money, had nothing that they could actually charge him for. So they charged a few of the people, the campers that were stragglers that were still there, and then they hit him with a very obscure federal charge of providing a place for recreational drug use. That's all he did. Opened up his property, let people come in, they had a concert, they had their fun, did their thing. The federal government charged him with that, put him in prison for 9 months, and stole his property. His house, his land, everything. Stole it all. I'll continue to say they stole it forever, because that's what they did. Now, it was legally done, according to them, but it wasn't. It was stolen. Then they wound up selling it to the state of Missouri. The state of Missouri owns that property now. So that's federal equitable sharing. They don't even have to prove anybody guilty for anything much, and they can come seize your property. Who's heard of people driving through Kansas with stacks of cash, Arizona with stacks of cash, getting pulled over for speeding or whatever, and then that cash being seized? It happens all the time. That is equitable sharing. It's theft. We're going to end the ability of the Camden County Sheriff's Department to participate with the federal government in equitable sharing. So that is something we're doing proactive. It doesn't sound like a whole lot to a lot of people, and I get it. Probably doesn't sound like a whole lot to y'all in this room. But it is freedom and it's liberty, and it's one thing that we're stepping and advancing forward. Another thing that we've done is I am incredibly transparent. We have open meetings. We have them all videotaped, recorded, or all yours videotaped and recorded down here in Camden County? No?
The commission meeting?
Yeah, the commission meetings. They're not recorded. So if you can't attend a commission meeting, other than reading their minutes, you would have no idea what they did.
That's exactly right.
And you
That
can
is-
request the minutes.
And you have to request. So on our website, you can go right now today and you can find all of our meetings. They're all recorded, videotaped, sound, the whole 9 yards. You can get that on our website. You can also get a copy of all of our minutes on our website. This is one of the first things that I believe as a group, and all of you, if you all went at the same time, one day, to a commission meeting and told Clint Tracy that the next thing we want done is video of these meetings and audio of these meetings to be recorded, and you pressured him and pressured him and pressured him, and I'll tell him at the next MAC meeting that I see that you guys want it done, you need to get that done. Because that's transparency. You can't always attend these meetings, but you can, by golly, maybe watch them afterwards. Yes, ma'am.
Here's my other complaint with the commissioners meeting is they're about 10 minutes. They're a waste of time. It takes you longer to drive there. They've already made all their decisions. They have well, I shouldn't say bogus, but crap on their agenda. I shouldn't say crap, it's not crap, but
Some of it is.
indigent burial would maybe the only thing on the agenda item, and then you look underneath where they've already went behind the doors, and there's other things that they have, and that's our commissioner meetings here. And they're not recorded, and you have to request the minutes, and Christie will email them to you. That's
Well-
how it goes here.
Well, you've got one new guy come in.
Yeah.
You got 1.5 years to get Clint to do what he needs to do, or.
I don't like Clint.
I say say it.
I never liked
I say say it.
Okay, all right. Well, anyhow.
Say it, you're not offending me.
So, there's ways of getting people out of office as well. I'm not going to go into all of that this evening because it is some of the strategy that you don't necessarily want to have recorded. You're just going to talk amongst yourselves on how to do some things. But you can get him out of office, that's what you want to do. But that would be one of the first things. I'd pressure them hard enough that they have to get some video recording in that building and audio recording so that you can keep up. And if all they're doing is coming in there and saying, all right, we're going to talk about engine and burials, I propose that we pass ordinance, blah, 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 blah. I'll second that. All in favor? Aye, aye. You're 100% right. They've already made that decision before they ever got up to that chair. And therein lies a very serious problem. Not only that, but there's a problem with open meetings law in the state of Missouri anyway, and sunshine law, because I'll tell you right now, our commission had a meeting before I got there, and they decided to put some rock on a road. It's a big deal in Camden County called Gravelgate. But long story, it happened. Long story short, someone complained that it was a non-open meeting. The Attorney General agreed because they decided to put this rock on this road in their offices. So the Attorney General came down and said, you know what? You guys have been so bad, you have to have another class on sunshine training and open meetings. And that's all they did. So that's all they'll do here. That's all they'll do here. Look, the Attorney General of this government is not here to help you. I assure you of that. If you have something that is cut and dry that they can't possibly turn away from, yeah, they'll probably help you. But if it's vague or something that makes them going to work, yeah, they're probably going to help you. As a matter of fact, when they come down and give this is the craziest doggone thing I've ever seen in my life. When they come down and give us the training, they can't answer questions. I'll ask them, well, if I talk about this, that, or the other thing without an open meeting, is that violating the law? I can't tell you, ask your lawyer. They won't even tell you. And they administer the doggone program.
Can or don't want to.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So
Yeah, they don't
what's
want
value
to
in the
maybe
program?
accidentally be on your side.
Just want to
There's
get
no
paid
value
off
in the
that damn
program
money
then.
and not
Well,
do anything.
You're absolutely correct.
That's what they
But
want to do.
the value of any program is booting somebody out of office. So stay on top of them well enough to get cameras and recordings in office and then hound them in that regard. So that's transparency. The other next thing we're doing, who has heard of automatic license plate readers? Some of you know what they're about? Good. They're horrible, they're evil, and they need to go.
Amen.
And anytime that they tell you, well, what if your daughter was kidnapped and we had their license plate and we're going to be able to get your daughter back from that? That's beautiful. I hope that works. If that should ever happen, I pray God that never happens to you. But you know what? They did it before the ALPRs come along. And I'm going to say this, and even if it was my daughter, and I have a 6-year-old beautiful little girl, I'd kill and die for her. But it is not worth the risk of everybody's liberty and freedom to be tracked every single place you go for the off chance, should she get kidnapped, that that particular camera is going to help find her. It just isn't. There is not enough security that you will ever have from your government that warrants your continued surveillance. And the more of these things that they get across the state, the more they're going to be able to track every single movement you make. As a matter of fact, an officer in Sedgwick, Kansas, I believe it was, used these cameras 264 some odd times to track his ex-girlfriend and new boyfriend, and then started chasing them around in a city cop car to find out what they were doing. So when I say that's the one illustration. But if it can be abused by that individual, it'll be abused by a lot of others that you're never going to find out about. Who in here trusts the FBI? How about the DOJ? Homeland Security? Marshal Service? None of them? Come on. I love you.
Not
Because
anymore.
every single one of them, I assure you, are connected to every single automatic plate reader in this country. One of the reasons we know that is because they're funding them. I got the MOUs of understanding from the Department of Public Safety in the state of Missouri. Because once we passed the ordinance, we already passed an ordinance that prohibited automatic license plate readers in Camden County. Now, I can't tell a city to go take them down, and I can't tell an incorporated area to take them down, but in the unincorporated areas of Camden County, they're not allowed. Well, guess what? There's one on Highway 54, west of Camdenton, on the state right-of-way. Unincorporated part of Camden County, state right-of-way. So I asked, where can I get a bucket truck? Because I'm gonna go cut it down. After we sent the letters to them, to Flock and the Department of Public Safety, they still didn't take them down. Well, now what do? So I'm looking for a bucket truck so I can go cut it down. It ain't but about 12 foot off the ground. 2 little bitty metal, aluminum bands that hold this thing up. All you gotta do is have the plate reader. You don't have to have the solar panel and all that other junk. Attorney General's office found out I was gonna do that, and they made a phone call. They said, well, Skelton goes out there and cuts that down. Prosecuting attorney, you're probably gonna have to charge him with destruction of state property. And I thought to myself, once I heard this, I said, well, this is 2 little bands, probably a misdemeanor. I'll be a local hero. Maybe even a state hero.
Yes.
But I'm an elected official, so I need to follow the law, right? And I do, except when I'm speaking. So I got to thinking, there's no possible way the Department of Public, did they really go out and buy these things? Do they own them? Guess what? They don't. It's not government property. It's owned by Flock, an outfit that F-L-O-C-K, they administer them. They have all the software, they operate them, the whole 9 yards. And an outfit by the name of Axon. Axon developed the body cameras as well as the taser. They created the taser. So they're a big outfit when it comes to public safety and things of this nature. They're the ones that actually put it up. And guess what? The money went through the state of Missouri directly to Axon. And Flock still owns all of the cameras. So when I go cut it down, I will not be destroying state property. And it won't be a misdemeanor. But I am waiting for the new sheriff.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Is this the same technology that, I saw in Puerto Rico where cop cars now can go into a parking lot and they have barcodes now for registrations. So they can ping all the cars and verify if they're registered or not, and then start giving tickets out. Is this the same tech that you're referring to?
So it sounds like that is an actual barcode and a way of doing that. This doesn't do it that way, but it does do the exact same thing. As a matter of fact, what they call it, pegging. I don't remember exactly what the term is, but an officer will have a plate reader in their car. They'll drive through a parking lot, and as they're driving through that parking lot, gridding, that's what they call it.
Yes.
It records every single license plate in that parking lot. Now, what they can do is they can put a license plate number or description of a vehicle in that system, and when if you go through the plate reader system, it will alert, and it'll say, oh, hey, we're looking for this guy, and they'll send an alert to dispatch, and dispatch will know that that vehicle just went through, just passed by that camera. Now, I will tell you, they are very effective. As a matter of fact, Camden County picked up an alleged murderer that came through Camden County. The Marshal Service contacted Camden County and said, hey, they just went through this state, they're going through that state, they're going through this state, and we believe they're on the way to Camden County. Keep an eye out for them. Now, you know what I just heard? Marshals have been tracking this person all the way across the country, and they can do it to you.
Yeah.
So that's what I have a problem with it. But we did catch the alleged murderer, send him back to where he was. I don't know if he's convicted or anything else. So I'm not here to say that they aren't effective. They're too effective. Is what's happening now in Europe. So went through on a vacation, went through a toll booth, or went through a toll area and got a toll in the mail? Anybody got that? Said, well, how did they possibly know to find you? Because of your plate, because of your license plate, and their automatic license plate reader. Yes, ma'am.
I work for a trucking company,
And
we get toll tickets, or we send, the guys run through these. They don't set up toll booths anymore on a lot of these places. And then you get the tickets in the mail, and if you have it set up online to pay, then, it's just the fee to pay the toll. That's it. But if they have to send this to you, and they make it difficult for you to get it set up online to pay.
Of course I do.
So when you get this in the mail, I had one the other day, that the toll itself was $16.30. The fee for them to process this to send it to you was $45.
Wow, that's a pretty cool racket.
It's a moneymaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only do they do toll booths or toll roads, toll bridges, whatever, they're starting to in Europe, and they already do it in New York, I believe. Up in the state of New York, in some cities, if you're speeding, a camera will pick up your speed, it'll take a picture of your license plate, and then it'll send you a ticket in the mail. Do we remember when we had the stoplight cameras? Who remembers those? They're outlawed in the state of Missouri now, right?
Good.
One of the big reasons is because how can you prove who's in that car when it runs a stoplight? Wasn't me. I might own the car, but I let my brother drive it. Same thing with speeding. I wasn't speeding, my brother was driving the car at the time. So we have a little niche to get rid of these things maybe. Yes?
It doesn't matter because my license was revoked when I lived in New York because my ex got a ticket in New York City and it was registered under my,
Yeah.
and I had to get paid to have my license.
Sure, or get a ding on your
Because of
license. So they'll do it anyway, but my point is because that was part of the argument to get rid of the automatic stoplight cameras. I think we can use that same argument to help get rid of these things too, because we are going to be filing a bill in the state of Missouri next session to eliminate automatic license plate readers statewide. So, so not only that, but in Europe, here's the next fun thing, and they want to do it here in America. They're already talking about it here in America, that if you have a vehicle that is of a certain age and does not have the emission controls that they want on it, and you go into a city that does not allow those older vehicles, it will know you're there by your license plate because it knows year, make, and model, and they will send you a ticket for being in the wrong place. How do you like that? I don't like it either. But all this money is coming through the federal government to put these things in place. State of Missouri doesn't own them. If you'll see them out here, it's a brown pole about 12, 15 feet tall right on the highway. It'll have a single solar panel and then a single camera. Those are automatic license plate readers and they need to be eliminated. We're going to work on that. Something I will ask you all's help for once we get the bill. Bill Eigel filed the bill, I think 2 years in a row. It never went anywhere because, I mean, he was focused on a lot of other different things. So one thing we found out when we do get activism up in the state of Missouri, you have got to be seriously focused on what you want to get passed. It's easy to kill a lot of things, but if you want to get something passed, you have to be solidly laser focused on it and work it almost every single day. But you can do it. It can be done. We can even do that with these things. So some of the other things that I do as presiding commissioner is, as I mentioned, I'm automatically a member of the board of the Missouri Association of Counties, and I'm also a member of the National Association of Counties, and I get to participate in these fun little things called the Council of Local Governments. Who are familiar with those? Familiar with the Council of Local Governments? You have them here. They might be called regional planning commissions. Yes. There you go. They're all public meetings. They're not going to ever tell you about them, but if you can get on their list, I would encourage you to go attend them. And so I will tell you one of probably the most important things about being a commissioner. We spend your money. What do I mean by that? A whole big chunk of federal grants that come down through the system go through your Council of Local Governments. It is your local municipal leaders, your mayors, your commissioners, others of these nature that decide, find out about these grants, take these grants, and then use them for what have you. Some of them are maybe okay. They deal with roads. So I'm on the Transportation Advisory Committee. So we look around the county and we see where we can maybe use some federal fundings for our roads. We don't really take it anymore in Camden County for a couple of reasons. The paperwork is just absolutely stupid. And we then have to jump through some of their hoops so that we can have the money. The fun thing about it is they don't tell you about being in compliance until after you've taken the money and built the road. Then when you're completing that community block grant, that's when they start hitting you. Oh, well, are you in compliant with ADA, Americans Disability Act? Maybe. Well, you better be, otherwise you're gonna have a problem. You have to give that money back, maybe. So we don't really take any more federal money. And here's another thing. Who's familiar with the electric vehicle charging stations? Guess what? There is a lot of money coming from the federal government that they want to put down here in the counties to encourage you to put those things in. They come in through the Council of Local Governments. This is what your commissioner should be doing. We were in the Transportation Advisory Council meeting with the Council of Local Governments, maybe it was a regular meeting, I don't remember which. And they started talking about those things. I'll throw my hand up. I said, I have a question for everybody in this room. That's the same question right now. Who in here wants electrical vehicles to be the thing going? Who in here believes that electric vehicles are going to satisfy what Americans want? Same questions I asked. You do?
No.
You're on your own. So in this meeting, I said, well then why in the hell are we going to take the money to put the charging stations in our county? And we're not taking any of the money and we're not putting them in our county. So, these are just,
Didn't the Camden School Board kind of do the same thing? They stopped taking federal money because they weren't gonna do what they wanted to.
that's correct. And a gentleman ran for the school board on the fact that we should have taken that money and he lost. Camden County, I have to tell you, Camden County, I love being in Camden County, and I'm not going to disparage your county by any stretch of the imagination or anybody else's.
I might move there.
Well, come on up. I love Camden County because
Come up
these
here
are
and
the
either
things we
develop
do.
some spine.
We really do stand up
I
against
agree.
this stuff and just tell them, you know, but you can do that in your county. You don't have to flee your county. You really can do it down here if you get together and just work at it a little bit harder. I know you're working at it hard, but Missouri Association of Counties, real quick. I'm trying to do some things within that organization, but I have to tell you again, I know Clint Tracy participates. Stephen probably will once he gets sworn in. I've encouraged him to. Now, a lot of these organizations like NACO, they are very liberal. Why? Because that's who attends. So if we drop out and we don't attend, that is the only word that is going to be sent to DC or Jefferson City are things that liberals basically are progressives. There should be usually progressive. Because I'll tell you what, most of the Republicans in this state are progressive. They just are. You don't have to agree with me, but they're progressive. Just, you know what's going on in Jefferson City, they're progressives. So, that's a big part of what I do as a presiding commissioner. And how long do you want me to go? I mean, I still got a whole page to talk about, but I'm a politician. I'm not afraid to admit that. I'll talk forever.
15 minutes?
Okay, very good. So first, I'll take questions about presiding commissioner. How about that? Any questions on what we do, how we do it? Yes, ma'am.
So, we have suggested that our county budget be placed online.
That what?
So, the county budget.
Okay.
Expenditures and incomes, be placed online so that we could line item and see where all the money is going. Kind of the Lori Rook campaign, and they said absolutely not. Do y'all post your budget online?
Wow, they said they won't do it?
I believe that's right. Rox, where are you? Isn't that right? Were you in that, on that request and I refused to do that?
You asked the commission that?
I think so. I didn't do it. Rita, did you
So-
do it? Somebody did it. I was at a meeting and they just kind of blew it off.
So our budget is online. It's it's just a photo. It's just a copy of the actual budget page. So it's not interactive. You have to blow it up. It's kind of crazy. It's not what we want. But again, we're in charge of the budget, but we're not in charge of the budget. We approve it, but we don't administer it. The auditor administers the budget in a first-class county. So they're the ones that you really need to encourage to get it online as the auditor. Now the commission should do it as well. There's a thing in Missouri called, I think, Open Books. It is a website deal, website-based thing that puts all of your budgeting online, and actually puts every single check that your treasurer writes, and that's probably more important than your budget, because that'll show you who's getting the money. Yes, ma'am.
You probably have heard
Springfield, Ohio, with the 20,000 Haitians that have been taken there. They're eating ducks and cats and whatever. And the town is 60,000 people. Has Camden County done anything to protect its citizens from such an influx of illegals? And if so, how did you do it?
We're all armed. I know, that was a fun way of answering that, but that's not just a flippant answer, to be honest with you. We have a particular dam in Camden County called Tunnel Dam. It used to produce energy. Show Me Electric owns it, and they want to shut it down because it's not profitable anymore. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and U.S. Fish and Wildlife want them to tear the dam down. It is an earthen dam that has been there for 100 years. It's an earthen dam that has a ecological system on the one end of it, and it has its own ecosystem on the other end of that dam. They want us to tear the dam down because of the damage to the ecosystem. They've already been told and know, and so does Show Me Electric. And FERC found this out at Lake of the Ozark once before. If they try to tear our dam down, we will show up armed and keep it right where it's at. It's going to happen in Camden County if that's what they want to do. They tried to come and change the boundaries of Lake of the Ozarks and shift. Right now we're at the 640 marker for project development. That's the project area. They wanted to take it, I believe, to 645, and would have wound up wiping out, I don't even know how many houses, hundreds of houses where they had to bulldoze down. That never happened because the people in Camden County said, you're not going to.
So aside from being armed, what can Camden County do?
So, right, yeah. So we have talked about it, and we've got our emergency management individual working on that right now. I'd find out exactly how we are going to handle that. It's my understanding we have a small encampment showing up out at one of our food pantries, and we have another one back at a free store. You hear what I just said? A food pantry and a free store. So if you have the resources, they will come. What exactly are we going to be able to do with it? We will, unfortunately, we may actually pay to put on a bus and send them to California. That sounds crazy, but that's what an awful lot of places do. They send them out to California. Sir?
Did you say you do not have a county health board?
We do not.
How do we get rid of ours?
Honestly, I don't know. I hate to say it that way, but I just honestly don't know. I don't know because I know the third class county, Miller County, our neighbor is having a problem with that as well, and they have a health board, and they're having problems because they're elected individuals and they're just doing what they want to do and they have no authority over them. We don't have that, and we absolutely have direct authority over a health department. So I don't know. I honestly don't know how that happens. It's got to be. There's different ways of doing things in state statute. You can do it. Okay, for instance, the SB 190. Has Cape County done SB 190 yet?
That's the senior citizen?
Yep. Senior citizen tax freeze?
They declined it, but we have people who are wanting it back. Just like. Article 1, Section 2.
So real quick on the health board. So the state of Missouri gave the counties the option of either creating an ordinance for SB 190 or letting it go to the people to get enough signatures together to put it on the ballot. So it may be very possible that your health board is created in the same fashion. I just honestly don't know that.
Who here would like to take that project on? Raise your hand.
Well, he'll lead it, but he needs a couple of troops.
Somebody said, why don't you play, what's that game they play now? Pickleball. And I said, because I quit being competitive a few decades ago. My mentality won't let me, so I channel all my energy now into making sure that Robbie Gard is not Mayor of Cape Girardeau.
Instead, he's running all kinds of campaigns.
And fortunately, that's another thing we got going good in Camden County is we don't have a great big city. We got a couple of small ones.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question about the state setting up, sorry, thank you, I know y'all can hear. About the state allowing the development or the initiation of, implementation of private individuals donating to government services or employees. For example, sheriff's retirement funds, or the water, anything, some kind of water trust. We can donate to that. I mean, Bill Gates could come and donate to that. And then if we got the water bills passed, who's going to get the permit from the, are you familiar with that?
Well, I'm familiar with the
You've got a lot
water
of
bill.
water up there, and it also encompasses so much land from the water in
Wow.
or out, and,
Send me some info on that. I'm not 100% familiar with that.
it's called a water trust.
Send me some info on that, please.
Okay.
If you got something on that, please send it to me. There are a couple of water bills going through, or went through the House last year and the Senate. One of them would create the ability to permit water to be exported outside of the state of Missouri. Right now, there is nothing that would prevent you from exporting water outside of the state of Missouri. So they say, well, we need to have this so that there's a permitting process. What happens when you generally permit something? It starts happening. The other thing we have here in the state of Missouri, we have riparian water rights. What that means is you own the water that's on your property, nobody else can have it, and you own the water that's underneath of you. Whereas out in California and some of those other areas, Colorado and whatnot, you do not have those riparian rights. You have to be given the right to have the water that's in your area. So right now, if somebody were to start pumping water out of your aquifer for sale and export across the state of Missouri, you could go get a lawyer and you could probably stop them because they're stealing your water supply. If we were allowed this permitting process to go through, the Department of Natural Resources determines who's going to get a permit and can ship it. So we're going to try to kill that bill should it come alive again. Next one, real quick. Next one is a bill that would align Missouri's water statutes with the wording from the waters of the U.S. Do you remember, I don't know how many months, or maybe even last year, the Supreme Court come out and said, okay, this is the words that you're going to have to use for waters of the U.S. rules. I don't even remember what all the words were, but the EPA was like, okay, thank you, Supreme Court, appreciate that. And now the state of Missouri wants to adopt that language. And I'm like, no, don't ever adopt anything the federal government says. Don't ever adopt any of that language. Because once you adopt that language, you're now working on the same field, right? I want our laws to be so different than the federal government that a judge will never be able to figure it out and they'll let us win. Yes, Ms. Lee.
I was just gonna say in regards to the water bill, Jason Bean, put forward, Senator Bean, and Jamie Berger. I was at a political event several months ago. Clint Tracy was there. There were several politicians there. A local rep was there. And I asked him a question, about the water bill, and I wanted to see what he knew, where he stood on it. I knew I stood on it. I wasn't okay with it. And I guess they're used to people just not reading and understanding what's going on. And so Clint came over to me right after I asked that question. He came right over to me and he said, "I want to know, what you've got against this and that, blah blah." And I said, "I don't want our water being transported out of the state of Missouri. That's what I have against it." And he said, "Well, it won't do that." I said, "No, actually it will."
Absolutely will do that.
It actually will, and even got into a back and forth exchange with Jason Bean and I think it was his brother on social media about 3 or 4 weeks ago over the same thing. And they said, "No, we're going to protect it." I said, "No, you're not. You're not protecting it. You're doing quite the opposite. What you're doing is allowing the Bill Gates of the world to come in and secretly purchase these permits, and then you can't sunshine
That's
the
right.
records,
That's right.
so nobody really knows what's going on.
Like the rhinos
So this
do
is
in
all,
Washington.
this is all,
Like the rhinos
you're
do in
making it
Trump
sound
on the
like it's
bus.
beautiful, but it's really not.
And you'll lose your riparian rights at that
That's
point.
right, that's right.
Let me see that.
Yeah.
Not only that, but when they did a big article about the bill in our local newspaper, they never asked anyone for information that was in opposition to the bill, so you could explain why you did not think they were appropriate for the state or the.
Yeah. So I will tell you one maybe shiny little spot. Oh, another thing is solar farms.
No.
I do love this
They're all
crowd.
over Cape County.
I do love this crowd. So that was one of the things that the Missouri Association of the Counties had been working on last year. Were some language that would maybe make it a little more difficult for solar panels to be put in place, certainly a little more costly, and the counties would wind up getting a little bit more money out of the deal should it happen. So I just got put on this Agricultural Environment Steering Committee, and I said, all right, we're gonna work on this bill again, but let me ask you something. I said, how many people in this steering committee want solar panels and solar farms in their county? None of them. So why are we doing this? Are we doing this to get money out of it, or are we doing this because we want to discourage their placement? And pretty much everybody said, yeah, discourage their placement. So that was very, very encouraging to me that I got a steering committee on the Missouri Association of Counties, which is a pretty powerful lobbying arm, that wants to restrict the ability of solar farms to come into your county. Now, not gonna be outlawed. It's another thing too, it's your property, right? You should be able to use it and put solar panels on it if you want to. But it does affect all of us, so I think we can restrict it and work against it because it's our money being used kind of against us for these solar farms, taking up our farmland. So we're working on a bill that is going to make them very difficult to be put into the state of Missouri if we can get it passed. The other thing that Missouri Association of Counties is going to work on, thank you, is, and I'll have to get going here quick, right? We're working on also something that is going, those water bills we were just talking about, we're going to kill those if we can too, yes.
Well, I was just gonna say, how would it affect what's already in place in Missouri?
It won't.
It won't.
It won't.
What
It
about
might
wind
change the
farms,
taxes, it might change the taxes, I'm sorry.
What about wind farms up on northwestern Missouri?
There's nothing you're gonna be able to do about them, just let them die, hopefully never be put back up again. That's all I know for sure. All right, I got a lot to talk about, but here's the hook. So, you're all right. I just really appreciate you having me down here. I used to go around the state doing this all the time. I love it. I love to meet with people that believe in liberty and small government like you all do. It's fantastic, it's very encouraging. But I want to let you know that you must stay engaged. One of the biggest problems we had from the Tea Party movement is when Donald Trump got elected. You know why?
Tea Party quit working.
Yep, they quit working. They thought Trump was going to fix everything. Who in here thinks Trump's going to fix everything this next time?
People got too comfortable
Yes.
and complacent.
They thought he would be able to take care of things. We didn't have a bad guy. We didn't have Barack Obama as the bad guy. We're not going to have a Harris or a Biden or a whoever as the bad guy. So we don't have that thing to rally with, right? The entire government's the bad guy. Rally against them. It does not matter who is in the White House. It is still going to be bad government coming from the federal government, period. So make sure that we please all stay very engaged. I'm not even going to talk about educating yourselves because I already know that you can do that. You do that, you know what's going on. Hold your local officials accountable. If every single one of you could show up to their meetings and we can talk about how to defeat the Delphi technique and a lot of other different things, but if all of you all show up and start being a thorn in their side, they're going to have to listen eventually because they're going to get tired of hearing from you. I'm telling you, you just keep beating one.
You know what they did in our county, and I think I told you that whenever we met, whenever I was out there. Our county commission made a new agenda that we have to write what our complaint is on our card, and then we only get 3 minutes to,
State your case.
Yeah, and
I do that if I had a room like this and everybody, like most of y'all wanted to say something, I'll hold you to 3 minutes just because, just for time. But otherwise, that's nonsense. I don't want to know what you've got to ask me. I'm not afraid of any question there is out there. I don't care.
Well,
ask your question. That's what transparency is about.
our commission is hiding everything from the county.
I would start contacting the Attorney General, start recording things, start making notes. Call the Attorney General and get them down here even though they're not going to do anything because elected officials don't like that, they don't like that spotlight. Write letters to the editor of your newspaper. Start getting your newspaper involved if you have one, if they can. If they will, they won't do it.
They censor the grassroots.
Have y'all heard everything he's saying and suggesting?